flowed by movements as I demonstrate. Focus on stretching the back. Now, return to your original position. Watch the flow of my movements as I demonstrate.
All right, guys, welcome to Sports Betting Truths live Selection Sunday reaction. First time I've ever done this. By the way, I have Illinois in italics over here as well as Ohio State, just because that could be. It looks like Illinois is going to win. This is the first time the Big Ten title game has gone to overtime since 2015. So it looks like the selection show might be a little bit delayed, especially if Ohio State can force a second overtime, which I kind of hope they do, just because I have a money line bet on Ohio State. I had the over in this game, which obviously hit because of overtime. I don't even know how I was doing today. Let me look. I closed the file. Only 5 games today, and I think I'm 4-3. I'll have to check. Hey, no. I don't know how to moderate this chat, but no touting here. But yeah, let me refresh this. I think I went 3-0 on totals today, and they're all overs. Or no, 3-1. Loyal, MD, and Colgate. Whoops. It says 4-2, but I'm 4-3. I had to play on the under in the Colgate game, and it didn't go under, so I'm actually 4-3. Looks like Ohio State's going to come up just short here, but I'm not going to complain. 4-3, it's better than losing. Would have nice to hit one of these two money lines, though. Ohio State overtime loser. LSU lost by 1, so tough sledding. Yeah, Illinois has this. So looks like we're going to get the selection show started on time, as long as Ohio State doesn't try to drag this out. Congratulations to Illinois, though. They're probably going to be a 1 seed. So I will go ahead and close this. Congratulations, by the way, to the Blender going 5-0 against the spread today. So let's see. I got 3 different columns. I got automatic bids, locks, and bubbles. So when a team gets called, I'm going to take them off and add them over here. And this way I can kind of predict what's going to happen. Like TCU was a bubble team 2 years ago, and I knew when they were about 70% of the way revealed in the bracket that TCU wasn't get in, because if you know bracketing rules and everything, then you would have seen that there was still 2 Big 12 there was 3 Big 12 teams left on the board, and only you can only put 2 teams in a region but per conference, unless there's like more than 11 teams from the same conference, then they'll have to break that rule. But since there's only like 7 Big 12 teams that year, I knew that TCU is not going to be one of those last teams called in the final region, because there's still 3 Big 12 teams left, and the 2 Big 12 teams left are locks. So you can usually tell who's going to be in and out based on the bracketing as it goes on. So that's one reason I like to predict. Like someone who wasn't keeping track of who's been called and who's not would probably know that, hey, they probably would be unaware. But I remember I was telling other TCU fans, like when they weren't even done with the 3rd region, I was like, hey, we're out. The numbers aren't there. So, Ohio State can still somehow force a second overtime, but it'll be very tough. No, whoever said to go to whatever Twitch stream, I don't know how to I'm not going to be a total strict, person, but don't come in here and try to. Okay, Ohio State just made a 3, but don't come in here and try to tout other people's channels. No advertising. All right, so the bubble's pretty small this year. Usually the bubble column's pretty long in most years. Let me see if I can find old big boards. I call it the big board. I've done this like every year for the past probably 18 years. I used to have like a big dry erase board bracket that hung in the game room of the house I grew up in. And so I would like actually write the teams on there and like erase them as they were called. And that's why I call it the big board. Even though I haven't done it like that since probably 2013 is probably the last time I did that. But I should still have a big board from 2019. Here it is. Oh yeah, but you can see I erase the teams as they're called. So yeah, you can see here's the 4 bubble teams that were left out. And these ones in black were considered long shots, and there's no long shots this year. The bubble's pretty small, like it's pretty cut and dry. Obviously, none of the long shots are called, and here are the 4 bubble out teams from 2 years ago. And then I filled the bracket in as it got called, but I abbreviated them just because they go so fast. Unless they're showing like the reaction of the team, it's hard to really get in, so I'll do my best. But this was 2 years ago, 2019. Yeah, you can see like once Iowa State was called right here as the 6th seed, I was like, TCU's out because Baylor and Texas Tech hadn't been called yet, and those teams are going to be in, right? And so I was like, yeah, we're out. And so I started to text my TCU friends and family around that time. And I was like, hey, don't even watch the rest of the selection show. We're out. But anyway. Gonzaga, like I think I keep saying it's like this year's tournament field is, I call it the Pokemon field, because you know how Pokemon like fire beats grass but is weak to water, for example. Like every team has their strengths and weaknesses, so it really all depends on who's in their bracket. Gonzaga, yeah, they can win it all, but they strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, it's like Pokemon. Each team has their ways. All right, first free throw from Illinois is good. It looks like Illinois is going to pull this out. I don't know. A lot of people are saying after 2019 and 2017 that this is Gonzaga's last shot, but they always seem to be able to reload. The problem with Gonzaga is the same problem they have every year, and they're never going to be able to shake it. And it's, did the weak competition they played in conference prepare them enough for the tournament? That's always the question mark for them. And I don't think the average person realizes that Gonzaga has the same amount of Final Four appearances as Loyola, George Mason, VCU over the last 20 years. So they've only made one Final Four. But yeah, Ohio State's going to drag this out. So we're going to have a delayed selection show for the first time, I think, ever. The only other time I can remember the Big Ten champ game going overtime was 2015, but it was very short overtime because I want to say it was Michigan State and Purdue, I think, or Wisconsin and Purdue, something like that. And Wisconsin, Michigan, whatever happened, the overtime score is 14-0. Like the losing team did not score at all in that overtime, so it was very fast overtime. But yeah, this is always like the worry every year is, will the Big Ten champ game go overtime? And it finally not finally happened, but it happened for the first time in 6 years. And unlike that last overtime in 2015, this one's being dragged out. Yeah, tough. I had the Ohio State money line. 2 tough money line losses today with LSU and Ohio State. Both of them came very close, but just couldn't pull it out. And I know on my website I was giving out Cincinnati as well, but I didn't actually play it because I didn't want them to win. St. John? No, I don't. St. John's is not a bubble team. Sorry. Neither do I have Seton Hall. So I think the bubble is very cut and dry this year, and I would say Ole Miss is probably not going to get in. St. Louis is probably not going to get in. So you could probably add them as long shots, but I didn't want to create a long shot column for 2, So it's going to be, let's see. If the automatic bids are 31, there's an extra at-large bid this year because the Ivy League did not have a team. And the locks are 30. So that's 61 teams right there. So 7 of these 11 teams are getting in. So only 4 are going to get left out. So if I had to pick the 4 that are going to get left out, I would probably say Ole Miss and St. Louis are 2 obvious ones. I would probably say one of Colorado State and Utah State is probably going to get left out. And then I think VCU, Drake, Syracuse. You could make a case for every team. I think Ole Miss and St. Louis are the two obvious ones, though. No, I'm not going to actually show the broadcast. They would shut my stream down if I did. So you'll have to watch the broadcast along with me and deal with the delay. Syracuse, yeah, I would say Syracuse is 50-50. UCLA is probably on the right side of 50-50. Michigan State's a very tough case. Any of these teams that get in are going to be 11 seeds or better, in my opinion. I think Oregon State and Georgetown are going to be your 12 seeds. So I think the play-in games will probably be 11 seed games. I would be surprised if they slid Georgetown or Oregon State up to the 11 line and bumped any of these teams to 12, but it could happen, especially a team like Drake or Colorado State. I could definitely see them being 12 seeds. Yeah, I'll put them in as they're announced. Yeah, I agree that too many teams go for threes at the end of at the end. I hate that. It's called this. I call it hero ball or Steph Curry ball. It's annoying. Go for the best shot. Don't just dribble out and jack up a three. I don't like it. Yeah, I think Colorado State probably an 11 seed if they're in the play-in round. Maybe a 12. Like, I could see maybe Georgetown or Oregon State sliding to an 11 seed. I doubt it, but I think they have better resumes than a Drake or a Colorado State. So it really depends which bubble team. Like, I could see Colorado State and Drake being a 12 seed play-in game because they have worse resumes than Oregon State and Georgetown. Let's face it. Yeah, notice I didn't put Duke in here either, even though the media has been trying to make Duke happen the past couple days. I've never had a team, out of the 18 or so years I've done this, I've never had a team that I didn't include on the list be put in. Now, I've had teams in the long shot column be put in. In 2006, 2 teams from the long shot column got put in. I want to say in 2016, Tulsa was in the long shot column and they got put in. There's probably been more than that, but those are just the top of my head. But yep, this game's over. That meaningless 3 at the buzzer. It not meaningless. The spread was 6. So you just lost your bet if you had Illinois -6. All right, here we go. I don't know. Let's see if they delay the selection show at all. West Virginia, I think there'll be a 3, maybe a 4, 3 or 4. I don't know. I mean, while we're waiting for them to start, because they take a while, I'll talk about. By the way, can you guys hear the broadcast? I'll turn it down a little bit. 1 seeds are going to be Gonzaga, Michigan, Illinois, Baylor. 2 seeds are going to be Alabama. Let's see. Who am I missing? Alabama, Ohio State are a couple 2 seeds. What other 2 seeds am I forgetting? It's kind of hard when you're like looking over all these teams. What is this? This commercial? It's a sportsbook commercial. Oh, STN Sports Station Casinos. Illinois is a good pick. I'm not going to doubt that at all. All right, I'm trying to come up with what the 2 seeds are. I already said the 1s. Baylor, Gonzaga, Illinois, Michigan are your 1s. Ohio State, Alabama are 2. Who else could be a 2? I feel like I'm out of touch here. Iowa. Iowa is probably going to be a 2. And maybe Houston. Your 3s are probably going to be Arkansas, Texas, maybe like a West Virginia. So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of congestion there in like the 3, 4, 5, 6 line. A lot of congestion, not a lot of separation. Yeah, something tells me Oklahoma State will be a 4, but they could be a 3. I'm more confident in how the lower end of the bracket's going to be seeded. Like, I know who your 16 seeds are going to be. I mean, obviously, Mount St. Mary's, Norfolk, Texas Southern, Appalachian State. I think Drexel is going to be a 15. I think Eastern Washington could be a 14, but probably a 15. Grand Canyon probably a 15. Hartford 16. Iona 16. Yeah, the Ivy League didn't play any games this year. So whoever the last team that gets in can thank the Ivy League for canceling their season. Yeah, I do think Oklahoma State will ultimately be ahead of West Virginia. They could both be 3 seeds. Syracuse is 50-50.
It's been a season like no other. You have to wonder what difference it made in the slotting and the seeding this year.
Agree 100%, Greg. In a year of pauses,
Michigan State, if they're in, they're going to be an 11.
various forms and fashions, it is absolutely fantastic to be part of presenting a 68-team bracket for March Madness.
I don't want to jinx anything, but given everything we've been through the last year, we are in as good a place right now as can be expected to have a successful tournament. Read the teams.
Yeah, another unique aspect of this year's tournament is that all 67 games will be played in the state of Indiana.
Gosh, these guys have been doing the selection show since, 2001, 2000. The same 3 guys.
Without further ado, let's begin the reveal of the tournament.
Here we go. They do 1 seeds first. Yeah.
These are first and second round games on Saturday and Monday, and the overall number 1 seed is Gonzaga, with the Bulldogs heading up the West region. And why not? 26-0 on the year, 15-0.
All right, we got Gonzaga.
4 number 1 seeds for the Zags.
I'll just highlight them. I won't erase them.
Tournaments cannot come as a surprise.
Oh, God. The socially distanced mask-wearing celeb. Get out of here. So stupid. So stupid. Play-in round.
The winner coming out of the first 4, which is on Thursday, March the 18th.
It's got to be play-in round teams. Norfolk and App. So they did put an Appalachian State in the play-in round. I didn't think they would. I thought Appalachian. A Sun Belt team Charlie shouldn't be put in the play-in round, but it is what it is. All right, here we come. Some 8-9 games. Saturday, Monday.
They make their first NCAA tournament appearance since the year 2000.
8-9 games. St. Bonaventure could fall here. Loyola Chicago could fall here. Oklahoma.
The number 8 seed. Coach Lon Kruger's Sooners went 15.
I think they closed too. I don't like the way they closed and finished. So I don't think they can beat Gonzaga if they are able to advance. Missouri, wow, Big 12 rematch. I don't think either of those teams could beat Gonzaga. Neither team plays good enough defense, in my opinion.
Now, out of the Big East, the Creighton Blue Jays. The number
Creighton is a 5. That's not surprising. So here was like a Oregon State could fall right here, or maybe like a Winthrop or a UC Santa Barbara.
the Big East tournament final. Now,
Yep, UC Santa Barbara. See, I'm good at predicting these things.
Barbara, the Gauchos.
Um,
This show, 2 gentlemen next to me are saying beware.
yeah, they're good. They're good.
Record
I've been talking about them on the stream all year.
and 3.
All right, who do we got? I can see West Virginia coming up here. No, Oklahoma's in that side. Never mind.
Virginia's Cavaliers.
13 seed. This could be like a Winthrop maybe, or a North Texas. Maybe a Colgate.
Some of their players are not going to get to Indy until a few days from
UNC Greensboro could also fall here. Ohio. Okay, Ohio's a 14. I'm kind of surprised. I thought they'd be a 14. But that's an interesting matchup. Ohio has been playing very well, and Virginia's time off could hurt them. USC is a 6. Here's where a play-in round could happen right here. So bubble teams are probably going to show up right here. Wichita State and Drake got in. Wow. Missouri Valley rematch. Old Missouri Valley.
Drake getting in was a big topic of conversation. They've had injury
I like Wichita State in that game, to be honest. I'm not sold on Drake. I've been talking about them, but not good news for VCU, Colorado State, Kansas. Oh, Wichita State. If Wichita State can somehow get to the second round, they can rematch with Kansas like they did in 2016. Eastern Washington. They didn't really impress me last night, Eastern Washington. They were a little they played at a fast pace, but they just couldn't score. Oregon as a 7. VCU got in. I didn't think they would, but they did. Okay, 2 seed. I'm thinking Arkansas, maybe. No, maybe like a Iowa. Okay. They already played Gonzaga this year, by the way, and lost by 12. All right, 15 seed. I think maybe a Drexel, Grand Canyon, Cleveland State could fall here. Oh, Grand Canyon, yep. All right, so that's our first region. What do you guys think? Initial gut reaction, I wouldn't be afraid if I were Gonzaga here. Remember how I said it all depends on the bracket? I don't think they already played Iowa and beat them by 12. Iowa doesn't have the defense. Kansas, they've been playing a lot better. I don't know if Kansas can get by an Iowa though. That's the problem. Virginia, you just never know with them. And Virginia already played Gonzaga as well. If they somehow get to the Sweet 16, which they probably should, if they get to the Sweet 16, Virginia got destroyed by Gonzaga on a neutral floor as well. This is a very favorable bracket for Gonzaga. I'm not going to lie. The teams that could beat them, none of them got slotted here. The problem is like Iowa, Creighton play identical styles to Gonzaga, kind of only worse, right? Virginia would be interesting if they hadn't already played, and Gonzaga did a good job against them. And Virginia has a tough road. Like UC Santa Barbara is for real. UC Santa Barbara is for real. Kansas, they did close strong in the season. You just have to wonder, do they have it? They are the toughest team in this bracket that Gonzaga has not played already. So just looking at this, also bubble teams, 3 bubble teams already in. So I'd be very worried if I were a Colorado State or Utah State right now, or Syracuse. Yeah, UC Santa Barbara, a lot of people are going to be picking them, and rightfully so. I mean, they got a pretty favorable draw. I mean, Creighton is a week 5 seed. We saw how bad they looked yesterday. Virginia, so many question marks with them. The team with the most question marks in this region is Kansas and Virginia both. Iowa, their problem is defense. Defense. They have to outscore people, and it's very tough to outscore Gonzaga, and they've already played. All right. How do I moderate this chat? All right. I just put you in timeout. St. Louis, I don't see. I think Ole Miss and St. Louis are the 2 weakest teams on the bubble side.
Excuse me? My stuff has bacon. Choose better, be better. And now save when you order in the app. Subway.
I have 211 viewers. Wow, I didn't even know. This is a tough. This is, like I've been saying, this is a very favorable region for Gonzaga. Very favorable. I'm not saying Iowa or Kansas or Virginia can't beat Gonzaga, but the thing is, Iowa and Virginia already got their cracks and lost by double digits, and Kansas just has a lot of question marks. And also Virginia and Kansas' time off, that hurts your momentum. Trust me, breaking a routine in college sports is something you don't want to do. I think Iowa should easily, if I'm looking for a first-round upset here, obviously UC Santa Barbara stands out. Ohio finished really strong. They're an interesting team. The thing is, will Virginia's defense swallow them up, or will they be able to continue the hot shooting they've been on? Eastern Washington, they play at a fast pace, but even though they play fast, they were struggling offensively last night. I don't think they can beat Kansas. Grand Canyon, interesting case, but I think Iowa's offense will be a little too much. So first round upset, probably UC Santa Barbara is probably the biggest one. I don't think either of these teams could beat USC. All right, here we go. Next region. Baylor.
No surprise here. Clearly early on in mid-season, this team was as dominant as any team in the
All right, Baylor's in. Was that a Sunday or Sunday game? Yeah. Opening round game between Hartford. Yeah, Hartford. Good story, but they are overmatched. They played so slow. North Carolina. All right, that's an. Oh, hold on, I'll get to that. I'll get to the analysis after they reveal the bracket. They just go too fast. Wisconsin. That's an interesting first round game. It's an interesting first round game.
Always do. Always play a tough schedule.
Out of the Big East, 5th seed.
Villanova's a 5. That is surprising. I thought they'd be a 4. So here's where Oregon State could fall right here. Winthrop. Okay, that's another interesting first round game right there. That's an interesting 5-12 matchup. Interesting. Purdue. Here's where like a UNC Greensboro could show up, like maybe even a Colgate. Oh, North Texas. Okay. Like I said, I'll get to the analysis in a second. Texas Tech is a 6. Okay, that's expected. All right, bubble team coming. Syracuse could show up here, guys. Maybe a Utah State, Colorado State, Louisville. Utah State, they got in. I'm glad. Good. They deserved it. I'm glad they got in. Thank you, committee. You guys made the right choice. Thank you. They belonged. Shut up, Seth Davis. They belonged. All right, 3 seed. Here's where like an Arkansas could fall. Maybe even a Tennessee. Tennessee's probably a 4. Okay, Arkansas is right. So 14 seed Abilene Christian could be here. Maybe even a Cleveland State, a Morehead State could fall here. Colgate. Wow, Colgate's a 14. Okay, remember, they were top 10 in the net rankings. I thought they'd be a 13. So it looks like the committee is not taking net rankings very seriously when it comes to seeding, but that's an interesting matchup. Colgate is the most interesting team in this tournament, guys. Florida. All right. So they're breaking bracket rules here. 2 SEC teams on the same side of the bracket, so they're not following rules. All right, bubble team coming. Virginia, they weren't a bubble team. That's actually a pretty uninteresting first-round matchup, to be honest with you. Neither of those teams are very impressive. So they're going to lose to the 2 seed here. Ohio State, yeah, they're overmatched. And then we got a 15 seed coming. Probably like maybe a Oral Roberts, maybe even a Drexel. Oral Roberts or Drexel, maybe Cleveland State. I don't think they would put Cleveland State, would they? Oral Roberts, yeah. I don't think that. Ohio State would never let them play Cleveland State after losing to Dayton a few years ago. Okay, so analysis time. Let me make sure I got everyone crossed off. All right, so breaking this down. Initial reactions. I'll go. So North Carolina jumped out to me because Baylor's weakness is defensive rebounding, and the best offensive rebounding team in the country is North Carolina. So if you're looking for a 1-8 upset, if North Carolina get by Wisconsin, very tough. If you're looking for an 8/1, though, North Carolina plays right into the weaknesses of Baylor. They can offensive rebound like crazy, and Baylor is not a good defensive rebounding team because they play a 2-3 zone. Interesting second-round matchup if it can happen. Winthrop went 22-1, and Villanova kind of not very impressive close to the season, especially away from home. Winthrop is very capable. North Texas, we watched them last night here on this channel, and they play they're pretty much Virginia. They're Virginia, only in the Conference USA wearing green jerseys. That's the style they play. The thing is, Purdue also plays, I don't think Purdue is very suspect to losing to a style like that. I just don't know if North Texas will be able to score enough. Utah State and Texas Tech, interesting matchup. Texas Tech is a good team, very good defensively, and Utah State had some offensive issues to close the year. I just don't know if they'll be able to score enough to beat Texas Tech. Colgate, like I said, most interesting team in the field. Top 10 in net. They're in the top 15 in my power rankings. But it's clear the committee did not value their own net rankings when it came to Colgate and slot them at 4. I thought they'd be a 14 or a 13, so they're a 14. Can they beat Arkansas? I don't know. Colgate's a good team. I think they were better last year, and I honestly think they were better in 2019. And they've only played 4 teams all year. But they look very good against those 4 teams. They're going to definitely be confident. They have the offense. The question is, do they have the defense? They can shoot. Colgate can shoot. The question is, do they have other parts? Are they big enough? Are they physical enough? But this is a very interesting 3-14 matchup. If I were Arkansas, I'd be pretty disappointed at the draw. I'll tell you that. I already talked about this matchup right here. 2 unimpressive teams that aren't going to be able to beat Ohio State. Oral Roberts is interesting. They are similar to Iowa in that they focus on offense and they don't really focus on defense. Not a strong defensive team, but they have 2 very good players that can score. Nation's leading scorer does play for Oral Roberts, but ultimately I don't think their defense will be able to hold up against an Ohio State. Ohio State pretty much plays a similar style to Oral Roberts, only better with better players. You need really a contrast in styles, in my opinion, to pull a 2-15 upset. Oral Roberts, they'll be able to score, but I don't think they'll be able to stop Ohio State from scoring. So going further down the bracket, like I said, I think Baylor's toughest matchup would be in North Carolina. I think Purdue is a very good matchup for Baylor. Villanova has a tough road just to get to a hypothetical Baylor matchup. I think like a team like Arkansas could give Baylor trouble. Ohio State could definitely give Baylor trouble because they're such a good offensive team. But yeah, Baylor got a much tougher draw than Gonzaga. So here we go with the next region. Illinois is our 1 seed. All right. This is Friday, Sunday games. Play-in round maybe coming here. Mount St. Mary's is still on the board. Texas Southern is still on the board. That's going to be the other play-in game, by the way. Iona, it's either going to be Iona or Drexel's a 16. Wow, so that means they're putting Iona at the 15 line. That is a surprise. That is a surprise. Yeah, I'm shocked, to be honest with you. I thought Iona for sure would be a 16 seed, but they're not. They're going to be a 15. All right. Our 8-9 matchup, we got Loyola's an 8. Not surprising. They're probably going to be disappointed about that, but that's where they belong. That's where they belong, 8 seed. Who can they play? I can see them playing like a Maryland, like a UConn here. No, not Maryland because Illinois is on the other side. Clemson could, Georgia Tech. All right. I honestly like Loyola in that matchup. And, wow, they could get a potential Illinois matchup in the second round. Illinois has been dodging them all these years. So Tennessee is a 5 seed, not surprising. They closed the season pretty weak. So here's where a Georgetown or a Oregon State's going to fall right here. Oregon State, yep. That was predictable as the sun rising in the east. So our 4 seed, I could see this being like a Oklahoma State, yeah. They weren't a 3 like some people were speculating. I'm going with Liberty. Liberty is my pick here. Or UNC Greensboro. Liberty or UNC Greensboro? Liberty, yep. All right, so our 6th seed is going to be, I could see it being maybe like a Florida State, nah, Colorado. Colorado's my pick. No, San Diego State's a 6. That is surprising. I thought they'd be a 7. Here comes another bubble team, maybe a Louisville, maybe even Michigan State. It could be Louisville. It's not going to be Colorado State because it's a Mountain West team. UCLA. No, they already played UCLA. They usually don't do rematches. Syracuse. Okay, they did get in. I didn't want them to, but they did. Sorry, other bubble teams. All right, our 3 seed. This is where West Virginia could fall. Maybe even a Houston, maybe, but probably West Virginia or Texas here. It's going to be a Big 12 team. Oh, yeah, I'm surprised. Syracuse always gets good treatment from the committee, it seems, except for 2007. All right, come on. Let's move. You guys are talking about West Virginia. Let's see, who could this be? Morehead State or Cleveland State? Maybe Abilene Christian. Morehead State. All right, our 7-10 matchup. Here's where maybe like a Clemson or BYU could fall. Even a Colorado could show up here. Clemson, yep. All right, here comes another bubble team. It's not going to be Louisville. It's either going to be UCLA or probably Michigan State. Rutgers. All right. Wow, I forgot about them. Not a bubble team. 2 seed, we got probably Houston. Houston, yeah. And then we got our 15 seed coming up. Iona could be one. Maybe even Cleveland State. It's going to be Iona or Cleveland State. Cleveland State. All right. All right. So I'm going to run down this region. Going through first round games first. Drexel is not going to be able to beat Illinois. I think Loyola will beat Georgia Tech. Good matchup for them. I think Oregon State's going to ultimately, their run of luck's going to end, which it tends to do with teams like that. Liberty has the potential to beat Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State closed the season very strong, so I would have felt better about Liberty winning that game maybe a month ago, but I think Oklahoma State wins. I think San Diego State will win this one. Morehead State's an interesting team, and West Virginia didn't have the strongest close of the season, but I think Morehead State's a year away. They were ahead of schedule this year. I think Rutgers is not that good of a team. I think Clemson should win, but this will be a good low-scoring game, which sets up so Cleveland State, good story, but they're not going to beat Houston. So I don't really see any upsets in this region. Maybe Liberty, maybe I don't even think Syracuse beating San Diego State's an upset, but this is going to be pretty chalk in the first round. So Illinois and Loyola will be a very interesting second-round matchup. It can happen because Illinois has dodged Loyola for years. They won't play them in non-conference, so Loyola, you guys get your shot if you can beat Georgia Tech. A team that finished weak to the end of the year to a team finished strong to the end of the year, Oklahoma State and Tennessee, what we'll give there. I think Oklahoma State should make the Sweet 16. West Virginia, Sweet 16, I think very easy path to get there. Houston will have an interesting matchup if they play Clemson because Clemson has the ability to frustrate Houston. Clemson plays a style very similar to the Memphis team that gave Houston a lot of trouble yesterday. So Houston has they'll beat Rutgers. Houston will beat Rutgers if they can win, but Clemson is a very tough second-round matchup for Houston. But ultimately, I think this is a gut reaction, guys. Oklahoma State can beat Illinois. Will they? I don't know. But Illinois, I think, has a favorable draw. But if West Virginia can catch fire and turn things around a little bit, they're a Final Four team out of this region. I think they match up very favorable with Houston. West Virginia does. So I think West Virginia will get to the Elite Eight, no question. I don't think Houston could beat them. So the question is, can West Virginia beat Illinois? That's a tough one. That'll be a very good matchup if it happens, though. But my pick here in this region, just gut, is West Virginia making it to the Elite Eight to face Illinois. Gosh, that's a coin flip. That's a tough matchup. So my initial gut reaction picks so far are Gonzaga, probably Ohio State, and West Virginia are my 3 initial gut picks so far. All right, so let's say we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 auto bids left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locks left. So there's only one of these teams are going to get in. One of these teams. So our 16 matchup is going to be Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern will be our 16 seed. So I'm already going to write that in because I know. Why is that happening? I already know our 2 seed is going to be Alabama. This is just common sense, guys. Texas is probably going to be the 3, the 4. Wait, I forgot Michigan. Wait, Michigan's the 1 seed. My bad. Your floors. All right, he's announcing the region, so it is what it is. Let's see. Texas is probably your 3. Your 4 is probably going to be probably Florida State. I'm guessing. I'll change them if I'm wrong. Your 5 is probably LSU. All right, here comes the 8 and 9s, which I don't have any idea who they could be. My guess is going to be UConn and Maryland, maybe UConn and BYU. It could be a lot of those teams. Maybe UConn and St. Bonaventure. Mount St. Mary's doesn't look very happy. But hey, that's what happens when you don't win your conference and win the auto bid. That's where you go. That's the whole point. LSU. Oh, I thought they'd be a 5. Okay, that's no respect for LSU there. Wow. Yeah, that is a dangerous state. I could see St. Bonaventure winding up here. Maybe like a UConn, maybe Maryland. Yeah, St. Bonaventure. I love that matchup for St. Bonaventure. I really do. That's a really good matchup for St. Bonaventure. They have every right to be happy. Colorado, a 5? Wow, Colorado's a 5? Oh man, they should flip with LSU. But this is going to be UNC Greensboro. No, Georgetown. Georgetown, yeah. This is going to be UNC Greensboro. So UNC Greensboro, Abilene Christian. Texas is probably going to be your 6. The 6, 7, and 10 are all interchangeable. Florida State's a 4. I knew that. They're going to play UNC Greensboro. Wow, only one of these teams are getting in, guys. Only one. And just looking at who's been slotted, yeah, I knew it was going to be UNC Greensboro. Honestly, I can't deduce. It's not going to be Ole Miss. It can't be Ole Miss. They're out. It can't be BYU's a 6. That's too much respect, in my opinion. So we're going to have a play-in game here. I don't think it'll be Colorado State, so I'm going with Louisville, Michigan State. Maybe Louisville, UCLA. Michigan State, UCLA. All right, so Louisville's out, unless they're a 10, which I don't think they will. Louisville is out. Whoops. Louisville is out. St. Louis won't be in because St. Bonaventure got slotted, so it's not going to be Colorado State. Yeah, these teams are out, guys. There's only 3 slots left, and yeah. Yep, because we still have auto bids. Yep. That's your bracket, guys. That's your bracket. Iona's right here.
And this team early on was playing as well as anybody hit us here, but have now ascended, and they're a threat to get to
Looks like UConn and Maryland's going to be your 7-10 game. I'm surprised they gave Iona 15. I really am. All right, UConn.
They return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2016, and they will meet 10th seed Maryland.
All right.
16 and 13.
Sorry, Louisville. Sorry, Colorado State.
5 times now in the last 6.
It sucks. They usually announce the 11 seed last because that's where the drama is. So they didn't this time. So that's your bracket. All right. I'm going to talk about this. Michigan, easy first-round game. Like I said, I like St. Bonaventure over LSU. I really do. Colorado, Georgetown. I think, like I said, like with Oregon State, I would say that Georgetown's run of luck. They're going to run out of steam, but Colorado's not an impressive 5. UNC Greensboro is a very dangerous 13 seed, especially for a Florida State team that kind of looked weak last night against Georgia Tech. UNC Greensboro has a very good player, Isaiah Miller. That's a tough 13 seed for Florida State. BYU, they're playing 2 teams with very high upside, but also haven't lived up to that upside. Inconsistent teams, but ultimately, I would not be surprised if BYU loses to the winner of this game. Abilene Christian is an interesting case. I think they're a very underrated team. I think they're a better team than North Texas or Ohio or Liberty. They probably should have been a 13. They play an interesting style of ball, fast-paced because they try to force you to turn the ball over. They remind me a lot of those VCU teams under Shaka Smart, who they're playing against Texas, even though they don't really do that at Texas. Texas will have their hands full. They really will. That's a tough matchup for Texas. UConn, Maryland, I honestly don't think the winner of that game will be able to beat Alabama. Iona's an interesting team, but they just don't have the game experience to beat an Alabama right now. So if you're looking for any major upsets, this probably isn't your year. The biggest upset I could see happening would be Abilene Christian over Texas or Colgate over Arkansas, but this isn't the year for like a UMBC over Virginia or like a Norfolk State over Missouri. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but the wrong teams are in the wrong places. Alabama. So looking deeper into the bracket, St. Bonaventure, like I said, I think they'll make it to play Michigan, but I don't think they can beat Michigan. So Michigan should make the Sweet 16. UNC Greensboro could be a surprise team. Like Colorado and Georgetown are week 5 12s. Florida State is a beatable 4 seed. I could see UNC Greensboro making to the Sweet 16. I really could. And if you're looking for like a upset pick, to go to the second weekend, UNC Greensboro is your team. Like USC Santa Barbara was the obvious one, but the obvious one never tends to do it. So UNC Greensboro is your guy. I think the winner of Michigan State, like I said, if Texas can get by Abilene Christian, which I think they will, but it'll be tough, I do think they'll make the Sweet 16. These 3 teams are all very beatable. I think Abilene Christian is a harder matchup for Texas than any of these 3 teams. UConn, Maryland, it doesn't matter. Alabama's going to win. So Alabama and Texas is a very interesting Sweet 16 matchup, a contrast in styles. I just think Alabama's a year ahead of schedule. Something tells me they're just not going to be able to. Their run's going to end in the Sweet 16. So I think Texas makes the Elite 8 to play Michigan, and that'll be a good matchup. But I think Michigan is your team out of this region. A favorable draw for Michigan. So my Final Four, just initial reaction. I haven't run my model or anything yet, so I'll wait for my model outputs to come out. But Gonzaga, Ohio State, West Virginia, and Michigan. And then Gonzaga versus Michigan will be a good matchup. I think Michigan is one of those teams that can beat Gonzaga. I do. But ultimately, I think Gonzaga will beat them. Michigan is a year ahead of schedule, too. And then we got Ohio State against West Virginia. I think Ohio State will win that. So I could see Ohio State and Michigan. Just initial reaction, no model. Ohio State, Michigan's your final. Which Michigan will be your... Or no. My bad. Ohio State, Gonzaga is your final, which Gonzaga's going to win that. So, yeah, Gonzaga's my national chip. Like I said, it all depended on the bracket, but Gonzaga is my national championship pick. Square pick, but I said it all depended on the bracket. The teams that can beat Gonzaga, I think the teams that match up best with Gonzaga is a team like Michigan. I think that's their toughest matchup, but I ultimately think they'll come out ahead. West Virginia could beat Gonzaga, and I do think West Virginia will make the Final Four, but the problem is that I think Ohio State plays into their weaknesses. So I think the 2 teams with the best chance of beating Gonzaga are West Virginia and Michigan. And but that's the thing. Like those aren't the 2 best teams besides Gonzaga. Those are the 2 teams that match up best with Gonzaga. Like obviously, like Baylor and Illinois are better teams than West Virginia and Ohio State. But when it comes to matchups, you have West Virginia and Michigan are the 2 teams that would give Gonzaga the most trouble. So that is your bracket. I don't really know what to say. I think this committee did a good job. The only thing I would have done differently, like I have no sympathy for Louisville being left out. I have no sympathy for Ole Miss or St. Louis. Colorado State is the only one with a gripe. But ultimately, they came up short. I'm glad they put in Utah State. So the committee did a good job. Like Colorado State is the only one I think that has a gripe. But when you look at the teams that got ahead of them, maybe Drake. Maybe they should have been ahead of Drake. Wichita State, though, they got in because they respect the American. I feel bad for Colorado State. Nico Medved is a good coach, does a good job. They'll be back next year. They should be good. So if you're going to miss a tournament, this is the year to do it. This is the year to do it. Let's hope that the tournament can be played, though, without any stoppages, without any teams dropping out, without any of that crap. No overreactions. Let's hope that the tournament gets played seamlessly without any trouble. Yeah, like I said, what is the most interesting first-round matchup in each region? I would say the most interesting first-round matchup in this region is Virginia and Ohio, just because of the contrast in styles. Ohio, a team that can get hot from three can beat Virginia, because Virginia, what they do is they take away the paint. That's pretty much what they do. They play a pack line defense, and I'm not saying they give you the three, but they're going to force you to take long jump shots. And Ohio has the ability to hit those. That's what got them beat by UMBC. UMBC hit threes. And Ohio finished the season on fire, playing very good basketball, beat two good teams in the MAC tournament. Virginia, on the other hand, like I said, the worst thing you can do in college sports is break a routine. It's kind of like a train. Like, it takes a while for a train to get their wheels spinning back up to full speed. So Virginia's vulnerable there. The most interesting first-round matchup in this region, I already talked about it, Arkansas and Colgate easily, just because nobody knows what Colgate is like. Again, I think Colgate had a better team last year. I think they even had a better team in 2019, but they still have a good team this year. And I think they're disrespected with that 14th seed. I do. And I think they'll play like it. And Arkansas, I think their coach is a good, I don't think they have a good X's and O's in-game coach. And so Arkansas is a better team for sure, but Colgate is an interesting case. All right, most interesting first-round matchup here is the 8-9 game, no doubt. Loyola and Georgia Tech. Loyola defense is very good defense, and I think they're the better team, and I think they should beat Georgia Tech. And I think that would be the most interesting second-round matchup on the board, would be Loyola and Illinois, just because, like I said, it reminds me of Wichita State and Kansas 6 years ago. Wichita State got to play Kansas after Kansas had ducked them for all those years, and Wichita State beat them. Also, it reminds me of Ohio State and Dayton the year before. Same thing. Ohio State refuses to play Dayton. They match up in the tournament. Dayton beats them. That's how those matchups tend to play out. Although West Virginia and Marshall, on the other hand, in 2018, the opposite happened. West Virginia beat them easily. So I want that matchup to happen. So sorry, Georgia Tech fans. Most interesting first-round matchup here is Florida State UNC Greensboro, and also LSU St. Bonaventure. The reason I like St. Bonaventure here is just because they're such a well-coached team, and I don't think LSU is a well-coached team. LSU has a lot of good players, but they're kind of erratic. LSU has a recruiter as a coach and not an X's and O's guy, and St. Bonaventure has an X's and O's guy. St. Bonaventure, quiet, under-the-radar team. I don't think it'll matter in the end because Michigan will beat either one, but interesting. But also Florida State, UNC Greensboro, very intriguing. And also Texas Abilene Christian. This matchup, this region is full of very interesting first-round matchups. Very interesting. Like, even Alabama, Iona. Like, Iona, who knows how good they could be? You know, they didn't play a lot of games this year. They have Rick Pitino as their coach. They have a lot of talent on that roster, but, you know, they had a lot of games they didn't get to play, so no one really knows about them. You can make a case for, like, 4 different games as being very interesting first-round games. If someone held a gun to my head and forced me to pick a first-round upset, it would be Appalachian State over Gonzaga, only because Appalachian State is by far the best 16 seed in the field. All the other 16s are pretty weak. Drexel, I think they have a gripe at being a 16 seed, but if they played, that's the thing. They got the weakest 1 seed. Drexel did. These are all going to be 20-plus point blowouts, though. There's no UMBC this year. There's no UNC Asheville versus Syracuse. There's no game like that this year where you're like, okay, that's a weak 1 seed playing a decent 16 seed. No, all those 16 seeds are bad. Even the 2-15 games are pretty lopsided. We already talked about the 2-15s, but like Cleveland State's a good story, but I think Houston's going to smother them. Oral Roberts pretty much is Ohio State. They play the same style, only Ohio State's better. Iona, just too many question marks against a team playing very well. And then Grand Canyon, interesting case, but Iowa will have too much firepower for them. So Yeah, San Diego State is an interesting case. How far could Florida State go? That's the thing. I think UNC Greensboro is a harder opponent than either Colorado or Georgetown for Florida State. If they can beat UNC Greensboro, big if. Like, UNC Greensboro by far the best 13th seed. I think they'll beat the winner of the Colorado-Georgetown game, and then they're probably going to match up with Michigan. Now, Michigan is a good team. They're not perfect. I think they're a year ahead of schedule. But Florida State, the way they finished the season a little bit, I feel like they might have peaked too early. So I think Sweet 16 is their ceiling for Florida State. But I think it's either going to be a first-round exit or Sweet 16. I don't see them losing to either Colorado or Georgetown. I think the winner of Florida State UNC Greensboro will make the Sweet 16. But yeah, this is the most interesting region by far in terms of, like, this is going to be your chaos region if there is chaos. How far will USC go? Well, I think they got a very favorable first-round match. I don't think either Wichita or Drake will beat them. And then they have probably Kansas. So I want to talk about Eastern Washington. If you tuned into the live stream last night, we were watching the Eastern Washington final. They play a fast pace, but they were struggling to hit shots. It was hard to watch. And I just think, here's the deal. Kansas has a knack for playing to the level of their competition. So let me pull up my website. It's time to do some deeper analysis here. So Kansas, they are number 17 in my model. So they have a knack of playing down to their competition. North Dakota State only beat them by 4. UTEP beat them by 5. So Eastern Washington, interesting case. They're rated higher than both those teams. So let me find Eastern Washington. So they played Montana State last night, struggled offensively. Look at that, only a 24th percentile offensive performance last night. It was hard. Defensively, they played fine. So you think fast-paced, bad defense, right? Well, their defense is actually pretty good based on the pace they play. But ultimately, I just don't see them having the firepower to hang with the Kansas. Although, look at their schedule. They only lost to Washington State and Arizona, 2 Pac-12 teams by 3. So it's not like they can't, play well, but it'll be tough. But assuming Kansas and USC do match up in the second round like I expect them to do, that'll be a very good second round matchup. And USC is more than capable of beating them. More than capable. USC is actually higher in my model than Kansas. They're right next to each other, 16 and 17. So honestly, I think USC could make it to the Elite Eight. I don't think Oregon or VCU will beat Iowa. So if they do make the Sweet 16, they'll probably be playing Iowa, which is a tough matchup for them. But USC has the potential to make it to the Elite Eight. But ultimately, look who's going to be lurking in this Elite Eight. So if you're looking for a 6 seed or worse to make it to the Elite Eight, USC is a great pick. Favorable draw. Like I said, Gonzaga got a gift region. As they should. They're the overall number 1 seed. But, gosh, I would be very surprised if they don't make the Final Four. No excuses for them. Oh, man, this chat's moving fast. If Kansas and Wichita State play in the second round, it's going to be Kansas this time. No surprises this time. But that's a big ask. I don't think Wichita State will make it. I know Wichita State fans will be eyeballing that second-round matchup, but I don't think they'll get there. Could Colgate go up against Texas Tech? They absolutely could. Like I said, this is the most interesting first-round matchup in the entire first round is Arkansas-Colgate on Friday. Easily the most interesting first-round matchup. Not even close. I'm looking forward to that one. Can they beat Arkansas? They can. Because I followed Colgate last year. I followed them in 2019. I was telling everybody in 2019, watch out. They can beat Tennessee, and they almost did. In the first round as a 15 seed. They came very close. Last year, unfortunately, they played very well last year. They were a very good team, but they lost in the Patriot League final on the last day of the season before they canceled it. So they weren't going to be in the tournament last year. But I know they're good. But they lost a lot of pieces from that team last year. They still have Jordan Burns. He's good. Where's Colgate? They flipped to 27. They were in the top 20 yesterday, so it looks like their game against. They still have Jordan Burns. He's very good, but he's not even the best player according to my model. It's Jack Ferguson. This is a good team, guys. I know they only played 4 teams all year, but they blew them out for the most part. Arkansas, I would be very mad if I was Arkansas. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I'll get to your questions. It usually doesn't move this fast. How am I feeling about Missouri? All right, that's a great question. Where are they? As a 9 seed, I watched Missouri play TCU this year and almost lose. But the thing is, Oklahoma didn't finish the season the strongest. I mean, they were projected as like a 3 or 4 seed, not like maybe 2 weeks ago. Fallen all the way to an 8. So is Missouri. Missouri is also projected as like a 3 and 4 seed not too long ago either. So these are two teams without a lot of momentum right now. I think Oklahoma's the better team and easily the better coach team. Lon Kruger, top 5 X's and O's coach in college basketball. Missouri is not a well-coached team when it comes to X's and O's. Good recruiter, terrible coach. And so whenever that happens, I usually like to take the better coach team. So I'm going with Oklahoma here. So Missouri, best case scenario, they make it to play Gonzaga and lose. It's not going to be any better than that. Most likely team to cause upsets, like I said, UNC Greensboro is my pick for a team 13 or worse to advance. I could see any of these 13 seeds winning except maybe North Texas. I like North Texas a lot, and here's the deal. When you look at my model, they're actually number 78, which is pretty good for a 13 seed historically. They play a molasses, like I said, they're Virginia. Look at their tempo. Only 3 teams are worse, slower in tempo than they are, and all their tempo percentiles are dark blue, which means slow. They are Virginia only with worse players and a worse offense, but they play the same style. They will slow you down, focus everything on defense, and try to make the most of every offensive possession. If you look at who they played this year, they lost to Arkansas by 15, Mississippi State by 6, West Virginia by 12, Loyola by 8. Those are the best teams they played this year. So they're probably going to be overmatched against a team like Purdue. I don't see how they'll be able to handle Trayvon Williams. I will say this, though. They played Western Kentucky last night. Charles Bassey, probably just as good of a post as Trevion Williams is for Purdue. So it's not like they can shut a player like that down. However, they could afford to double team a guy like Trevion Williams. Or not Trevion. They could afford to double team a Charles Bassey because who else does Western Kentucky really have? The thing is, Purdue, they just have more weapons. You can't really double team Trevion Williams or else another one of their guys are going to make you pay. And also, Charles Bassey was it, right? But they have Zach Ade, who is also a very good post. However, it's an interesting matchup. It really is. North Texas is the worst chance of winning as a 13 seed, but I'm not saying they have the no chance. It's just that I don't know if Purdue is the best matchup for them. So, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't like the way Missouri finished the season. They fell all the way to number 53 in my model. Playing against the 1 team, I just don't see it. Best sleeper to reach Final Four, that is a great question. So when you're talking about sleeper, I'm thinking maybe like a 5 seed or worse, like an Auburn a couple years ago, or like a Loyola in 2018, which I thought was going to make the Elite Eight. I didn't think they'd make the Final Four, but I did think they would make the Elite Eight because I watched them in person in the Missouri Valley Tournament that year. So if you're looking for a team seeded 5 or worse to make the Final Four, if you're looking for, so I'll do it by seed. So I think the 5 seed of the best chance of making the Final Four is Villanova easily. I think they got disrespected as a 5 seed. I probably would have swapped them with. Actually, I don't know. I think they're better than Virginia. I think they're better than Purdue. I don't know if they're better than Florida State. Oklahoma State finished too strong, so I guess their seeding's right. But Villanova, 6 seed, we already talked about it. USC, although Texas Tech is interesting, they just seem like they're missing a piece. That's all. That's a very hard road to get to Baylor, and they played Baylor twice this year. Played them pretty close, but fell apart at the end. That's the thing with Baylor. Baylor is what I call a last 10 minutes team. A lot of teams were able to hang with them for 30 minutes, but they always dominate the last 10. So out of the 6 seeds, I think the only team with a chance is probably USC, maybe Texas Tech. So I'll go with USC, although Gonzaga. Like Texas Tech has an easier Elite Eight matchup if they can get there, but USC is the better team. All right, 7 seeds. Sorry, none of them. No. 8 and 9 seeds. Loyola's not going to do it again this time. They would need the only reason they really made the Final Four to begin with is because the 1 seed lost before they got to them. But if I were to pick an 8 or 9 seed to gun to my head, pick a team to make a Final Four, probably a Wisconsin, maybe. Here's the deal. This is such an interesting first-round matchup right here, North Carolina and Wisconsin, that, like, I don't think Wisconsin can beat a Baylor. I do think North Carolina can. We already talked about that because they can offensive rebound so well, and Baylor, that's their weakness, defensive rebounding. So, yeah, North Carolina would probably be my pick. But I just don't see any of those teams be able to make the Final Four. And then a double-digit seed. Gosh, that's a tough one. Probably, I could see like a Virginia Tech making a run, kind of like South Carolina did 4 years ago. They do have the upside to do it, but that would be my pick. I don't see any Loyola, George Mason, VCU Final Four run story this year. I don't. The 1 seeds are too strong. So yeah, that's my analysis there. If you're looking for a dark horse, I would definitely go with probably a Villanova. I don't even think they're a dark horse, but just relative to their seed. And then maybe like a USC or a Texas Tech. No, Duke didn't get in. Yeah, one thing I really like in the tournament is I really like going with good coaches over good recruiters. So it's some coaches are both. You have good, like Brad Underwood, Illinois is a good coach. Juwan Howard at Michigan is probably more of a recruiter than a coach, but I'm surprised. I did not think he would be as successful as he has been because usually those NBA coaches don't end up working out, but he is, so I'm surprised. Iowa definitely has an X's and O's coach. Ohio State is definitely an X's and O's coach. Kelvin Sampson is probably more of – he's really coming to his own as an X's and O's coach, but he's a recruiter. And Nate Oates is – gosh, Nate Oates is both. He is the diamond in the rough. Alabama's very lucky to have him. So Kansas, Bill Self is – he's both. He's both. Arkansas, I would say Eric Musselman is a recruiter first, X's and O's guy second, and I am always – he has to prove me wrong. Eric Musselman has to prove me wrong. He had a very talented roster at Nevada a couple years ago and drastically underachieved. So that is – he set the bar very low, and he has to overcome that until I respect him more. Bob Huggins is a X's and O's coach easily. Shaka Smart, X's and O's coach, but also a good recruiter. Tony Bennett, obviously everyone knows. Matt Painter, everyone knows. Oklahoma State's coach is a recruiter, not an X and O's coach, which makes me hesitant to back them. But they do have perhaps the best player in the tournament. So you can't count that out. Leonard Hamilton is both. So going through the top 4 seed lines, Rick Barnes, recruiter. Colorado, Villanova, Creighton, all X's and O's coaches. All right, so those are your top 5 seeds in terms of coaches. What about Syracuse? I think they can beat San Diego State because I know all about Syracuse as an 11 seed. They beat TCU 3 years ago as an 11 seed. That 2-3 zone, I'm telling you, they will feast or famine on it. They beat TCU because TCU could not hit a shot against that zone 3 years ago. And San Diego State, I don't think they're as good as that TCU team, but I don't think the Syracuse team this year is as good as that Syracuse team was 3 years ago. So that's an interesting 6-11 matchup, to be honest with you. I think San Diego State's the better team. You know, I need to run my model to get a better idea. But you have San Diego State and Syracuse very evenly matched, only 2 spots apart in my system. So one thing to check when you're looking at Syracuse's opponent, how well can they rebound the ball offensively? Well, San Diego State's a top 1/3 offensive rebounding team, maybe top 1/4, top 25%, but not great. How well can they shoot the 3? Well, they're 85th in 3-point field goal percentage, and they take more 3s than the national average. So that's how you beat Syracuse. You hit 3s, you get offensive rebounds, and you also get a lot of assists, and they're also up there in assists. But so is TCU and all these things 3 years ago. TCU is very good at offensive rebounding. They had the best offensive rebounder in the country. They were very good at 3-point shooting, but they weren't the best passing team, and so that's what ultimately did them in. But I think San Diego State plays into the weaknesses of Syracuse here. I do. Yeah, Brian Dutcher. A lot of San Diego State fans were suspect about him when he took over for Steve Fisher, but he's done a good job. Yep. No, I lived in San Diego for a couple years. I know about Brian Dutcher. Yeah, I don't think Duke got snubbed. Yeah, Colgate, Arkansas is going to be a high total game. It might be the highest total in the first round. Because let's look at Colgate. Like, you can't really... All this information right here is meaningless because it's all about... Even with opponent adjusted stats, you really can't get a good idea. But one thing Colgate doesn't do, you can tell what they don't do, and that they don't turn the other team over, and they force their opponent to shoot threes. They take away the 2-point shot and they give them the three, but they do a very good job at defending three, at least against these 4 teams they played this year. They play a fast pace, so does Arkansas. They're a good offensive team. Colgate's going to be able to score. The question is, will they be able to defend? You can't really gain anything from this. The only thing you can gain is what they don't do, and that's force turnovers. Is that going to hurt? So when we come look at Arkansas right here, we can get more of a gauge at Arkansas. So I don't think Arkansas will have any trouble scoring on Colgate. I don't. But do they turn the ball over, Arkansas? They don't. So Colgate's going to have a hard time getting like transition opportunities and stuff. So Arkansas is also a good defensive team. They're a better defensive team than an offensive team. So I think this is a tougher matchup for Colgate than Tennessee was 2 years ago, but we don't know about Colgate. We don't. They didn't play any non-conference games. Michigan State first round exit. I could see them losing to UCLA. I really could. Georgetown or UConn? I think Georgetown will lose to Colorado. The thing with teams that make runs like Georgetown and Oregon State is that ultimately the magic runs out, right? Ultimately, like, clock strikes midnight, and that week off is going to kind of kill their mojo and everything. I think UConn can beat Maryland, though. I don't think they'll beat Alabama, but I think they can beat Maryland. So probably if I was to pick between those two, UConn. My initial gut reactions, like I haven't run any of my models yet, so that's ultimately going to be what I use to make any picks. But I have Gonzaga winning it all. That's why I have them in green. I have them beating Ohio State in the championship game. Nova getting bounced in round 1. Yeah, that's an interesting 5-12 matchup. Winthrop kind of suffers from the same issue as Colgate. Not really, though. Winthrop is 88. They only lost once all year, and I actually have the UNC Asheville money line in that game. It was plus 650. It was because Asheville was able to slow that down. Look at their tempo. It was the only blue tempo of the year. Asheville slowed them down, and that's what Villanova is going to try to do. And Villanova is a good slow-down team. They don't play very fast, so the recipe is there. You slow Winthrop down, you can beat them, but Villanova, kind of an interesting end of the year. They look pretty weak at the end of the year. Where are they at? But they're still a top 10 team almost, although they look 3 of their last 4 games not impressive. Butler, Providence, Georgetown. Well, I didn't know UConn was 9 in my model. That shows how much, I didn't know they were that high. So maybe I'm not selling them. Maybe I'm not being kind enough to UConn. They did finish strong. Maybe that's why they're so high, because my model does weight a little bit more heavily to more recent games. I give Winthrop a chance, but I think Villanova will try to slow them down. Yeah, So that's the bracket. Yeah, I think Oklahoma State, their run's going to wear off. They have the best player in the tournament, but they're just not. I don't think they're very well coached yet. Like, their coach still has a lot to prove before I take him seriously as a good coach. Liberty's not an easy matchup. They're not. Liberty will slow you down. Liberty is a slow-down team. But I think if Oklahoma State gets by Liberty, I like them against Tennessee or Oregon State. Like, I think Liberty is a tougher matchup for them than either of those two teams. Yeah, North Carolina's probably the 8 seed I would have the most faith in. If they can get by Wisconsin, which is no easy task. Wisconsin, so North Carolina's 18 and Wisconsin's 22, so that's an evenly matched matchup. But North Carolina, look at this, number 1 in offensive rebounding percentage, right? And so when you look at Baylor, look at their defensive rebounding percentage, 175. That's their worst stat by far. But here's the deal. Baylor played West Virginia, who's also a very good offensive rebounding team, top number 9. And Baylor was able to beat them on the road by 5, and the only time they played them. So offensive rebounding isn't the end-all, be-all, but I would be very worried if I were a Baylor fan about that second-round matchup. And I would be wishing that Wisconsin beats North Carolina because that's a much better matchup for Baylor. Because look at this. Wisconsin doesn't really go for offensive rebounds. They shoot the 3 well, which is what you need to do, and they pass the ball pretty well. So the numbers you're looking for to beat Baylor are assist percentage, offensive rebounding percentage, and 3-point field goal percentage, which are all pretty green for Wisconsin, but North Carolina, I think, does it better. Their assist percentage is better, although their 3-point field goal percentage is red, but their offensive rebounding percentage and assist percentage is better. Can Purdue make a run like they did in 2019? That was a fun tournament. The Purdue games were all very good, except their Old Dominion game. But I already went into detail about their matchup with North Texas. I ultimately think they'll beat North Texas, even though North Texas is an interesting 13 seed. And then they're going to have Villanova or Winthrop. I think Villanova might be too big of an ask. Like, if I was to pick in that game, I would pick Villanova. And I think Winthrop is a team that could give them trouble as well, especially if Winthrop could control the pace. So Purdue has a very tough second-round matchup regardless of it being Villanova or Winthrop. And ultimately, I don't think Purdue will beat Baylor. Purdue's strength lies in getting the ball inside, and that's what the 2-3 zone takes away from you, which Baylor will suffocate their offense. Purdue doesn't have the jump shooting to beat a Baylor. So if they can somehow make the Sweet 16, they better hope North Carolina beats Baylor. Otherwise, I don't think they can make a run like they did in 2019. Yeah, I actually agree. We talked about Houston yesterday. Houston, I think, is a weak 2 seed, but they got probably, in my opinion, the weakest 15 seed of the bunch, so they got lucky there. And then Clemson is a team that can give them a lot of trouble. Clemson plays a similar style to Memphis that gave them a lot of trouble yesterday, and I think Clemson is... Where do I have Clemson at? So Memphis is right here, and then Clemson is actually worse than Memphis, but they play very similar styles. Maybe not tempo-wise, but definitely defensively. Houston really was able to run it up this year against bad teams, but when it came to teams that were better, they played to the level of their competition. So Rutgers, I think, where do I have Rutgers at? 40. So they're actually better than Clemson, but I think Clemson's a tougher matchup for Houston. So if you're looking for a 2 seed to get bounced in the second round, it's Houston. If they play Clemson. But ultimately, I don't think they'll be able to beat Illinois or West Virginia. My bad. West Virginia will be too much for Houston. And, I know the seeding's based more on resume than ability, but if I was ranking teams on ability, I would have Houston and West Virginia switched seed-wise. Houston's a weak 2 seed. They ran it up against bad teams, but also lost to some bad teams. UNC, yeah. You say like UNC won't make it any farther than Sweet 16. That would be very noble if they made it that far, because that would mean they would beat Baylor. What do I think is the most lopsided matchup of the first round? It's going to be Baylor Hartford. We watched Hartford yesterday on the live stream of the first game of the day, and it was funny what Hartford was doing. It seemed like they would like cross half court with the ball and just like run the shot clock down every possession, like they were playing like Princeton used to do in the 90s. That's not going to beat Baylor. I think if Gonzaga could somehow play Norfolk State, which I don't think will happen, I think Appalachian State will easily make it to face Gonzaga. That would be a bigger blowout, but your biggest blowout in the first round is going to be Baylor and Hartford. Syracuse, San Diego State. Yeah, I'll talk about that one again. We talked about that one. I think San Diego State plays into the Syracuse weaknesses, so I do think they'll win. It'll be a close game, though. That's a good matchup. The biggest flaws about West Virginia, off the top of my head, is going to be three-point shooting. Let's see if I'm right. Actually, no, their three-point field goal percentage is better this year because they were able to get some guys. That was last year, my bad. This year, their weakness is scoring two-point field goals. That's in free throws. They have a hard time scoring, 2-point field goals. That's offensive. Defensively, their weakness is going to be. It looks like they have their opponents take more twos than threes, and their weakness is blocking shots and defensive rebounding. They're a very good offensive rebounding team, but defensive rebounding is a weakness of theirs. So, got to keep that in mind. They also let teams pass the ball pretty well, but they don't really have a lot of like glaring weaknesses. But getting easy baskets, like inside in the paint, especially with Oscar Tshiebwe. When he left, that was pretty much like their inside game offensively. They might be a little too reliant on the three. That's their weakness. But I think when you look at a team like Morehead State, they're an overachiever. They're probably, where are they at? Oh, I can't find them. I'll have to control F, won't I? Because that's their first round matchup, Morehead 130. So that's actually pretty good for 14. They finished the year very strong against bad competition, but they don't. Morehead State doesn't let you take threes defensively. That's a good thing. They rebound the ball offensively, number 88. So that kind of plays into West Virginia's weakness, and they do a good job at defending the two, which plays into West Virginia's weakness as well. So pretty good matchup for Morehead, although I just think West Virginia is going to be too physical for them. Johnny Broom's a good player, but after him, they don't really have a lot of depth inside. So that's my analysis of that game. I think Morehead State it's a favorable draw for them, but I don't think they'll do it. Yeah, you're right about that, William. The best and worst region, I think the best region is this one right here, this region. Although this region is pretty good too. Actually, I think seeds 1 through 5 are best over here, but this has the best division for chaos right here. The weakest region is you could make a case for either this region or this region as being the weakest region. No, I don't think any 16 seeds will be a 1 seed. I don't. I thought it was going to happen in 2018, but I thought it would be Penn and not UMBC. I didn't say it was going to happen, but I was like, Penn is a very good team for a 16 seed, and Kansas better watch out. I don't see any team like that this year, sadly. As fun as the big upsets are, I would be very surprised if any seed, if a 15 or 16 won this year. When Middle Tennessee won, I wasn't expecting them to win, but there are other 15 seeds in that tournament that I thought might have had a chance, like Weber State against Xavier was one. And then when Norfolk State, I didn't think Norfolk State was going to do it, but I did think Lehigh had a pretty good chance. And Florida Gulf Coast, they were on my radar when they beat Georgetown. But none of these matchups stand out to me. Virginia or Creighton, I think UC Santa Barbara is going to, they're an obvious 12 over 5, just like Murray State was and Middle Tennessee State was over Minnesota in 2017. Everyone had Murray State over Marquette a couple years ago. Everyone had Middle Tennessee beating Minnesota in 2017. And sadly, I don't want to say sadly, but I think USC Santa Barbara is another one of those obvious ones. Sorry for Creighton. I mean, maybe Creighton will win, but that's easily, in my opinion, the most competitive 5-12 matchup. But if somehow Creighton and Virginia got to meet in the second round, I could see that going either way. Like, I don't want to discount Virginia. I don't. They're a well-coached team. Their style of play is very hard to play against. But the time off, just breaking their routine and everything, that makes me a little hesitant. I'm usually a big Virginia backer. I picked them to win it all in 2019. I picked them to win it all in 2018. And they just got an unfavorable draw. Probably the hardest 12 seed in the second round, the hardest 1 seed up above, and a 13 seed that can beat them too. But if I were to pick between Virginia and Creighton, it would be, I'll consult my power rankings, and Virginia is higher than Creighton. Where's Creighton at? Yeah, Virginia's 15 spots higher than Creighton, so I would go with Virginia. So if Kansas tests positive, Louisville gets a 3 seed. I think that's how it works. Was Louisville the first team out? I'm assuming they were. I'm assuming these were 1 and 2. Yeah, Bama shouldn't have been a number 1 seed. If San Diego State went 22-2, they would probably be a 4. How far do I think Florida State can go? I honestly have them losing to UNC Greensboro. But if they can get, like I've talked about them, I think already, but I'll talk about them again. If they can get by UNC Greensboro, I think they'll make it to play Michigan, which I think they can beat Michigan. I really do. But I think Sweet 16 is their ceiling, realistically. What are my thoughts on the play-in games? I think Appalachian State should easily beat Norfolk State. Appalachian State is a well-coached team. They're ahead of schedule. Dustin Carnes is a good coach. And they're way better than Norfolk. Appalachian State, I think, is the best 16 seed, and it's not even close. Where do I have Appalachian at? Actually, Drexel is the best. It's Drexel. Here's why Drexel should have been ahead of Iona, because they're higher. So it goes Drexel. And then Appalachian State is probably the next best. Oh, actually, Hartford's ahead of Appalachian. Wow, did I miss Appalachian? Okay, they're 218. Let's look at their schedule. They lost to Tennessee by 40. They lost to Auburn by 14. They have a lot of bad losses on there. They lost to Troy 3 times, South Alabama 3 times. But they won when it counted. So yeah, they're probably they're ahead of schedule. But Dustin Carnes is a good coach, but I think they'll still beat Norfolk. Norfolk's the worst team in the field, in my opinion, and it's not even close. Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern, that's a pretty competitive matchup. I like Texas Southern. I think they have a higher upside than Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's is higher in my rankings. We got number 178 versus where's Texas Southern at? Here they are, 238. But like I said, I wouldn't take too much stock into the rankings of teams like Mount St. Mary's that might not have played a lot of non-conference games. Texas Southern has a higher upside. Let's look at their schedule. They beat Wyoming. That's not a terrible win for a team like Texas Southern. But yeah, I like Texas Southern. I like Appalachian State in those, and then I like Wichita State to beat Drake. And I like Michigan State to beat UCLA. Yeah, I've talked a lot about Colgate. That's just such an interesting matchup. VCU or Oregon? Oregon, yeah. I don't think VCU should have got in at all. I do not see why people are so high on them. Let's see, where's VCU at? Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't think they should have got in. They beat Utah State. They beat St. Bonaventure. And that's about it. So, yeah, Oregon for sure. Out of 2, would I pick Virginia or Florida State? Virginia, yeah, no question. The biggest underdog everyone should watch for, you could make a case for Colgate. You can make a case for Iona. Even Oral Roberts is interesting. If they played maybe like a Houston or something like that, they would have a chance. I just don't think defensively Oral Roberts is going to be able to get it done. Any of the 13 seeds are interesting. Like, very interesting group of 13 seeds. And interesting group of 14 seeds, Colgate and Abilene Christian. Yeah, BYU is overrated with their seeding, and yeah, they would have been better off like right here in the Clemson Rutgers pod. Yeah, they were overseeded. I think they should have been a 7, 8, or 9. So they got the draw to compensate. How many teams do I think will be removed from the tourney because of COVID? I think it's going to happen, sadly. I don't think it should. I think that would be very stupid. Like, I think if someone tests positive, just get them out, like, and let everyone else just move on, right? But instead what's going to happen is, like, someone's going to test positive, not a team member, but, like, say a staffer who knows somebody who tested positive, and they're going to, like, cancel an entire team's tournament. And I think that's stupid and unnecessary, but I think it's going to happen, sadly. And that's how I think it should be. If someone tests positive, just get them out and let the other team players that didn't test positive keep playing, right? Don't cancel an entire team's tournament because of one asymptomatic test, you know? Like, I think only people with symptoms should be tested, but that's me. I don't want to turn this into a COVID debate, but I'm tired of the overreactions. I really am. We've had an entire football season in high school and college, an entire basketball season in high school and college with no death or hospitalizations, period. So I think it's time to stop overreacting and let's play ball. If someone tests positive, then make them sit out and let everyone else keep playing. That's how I see it. But sadly, I think that's not going to be the case. I think, like a team manager who contact traced to another person who tested positive is going to get an entire team's postseason canceled. And that's stupid, but it's going to happen. So. Will BYU make it past round 1? I don't think so. I don't see what people see in BYU. I watched them against Pepperdine this year and other teams, and they're not as good as they were last year easily, and they've had better teams in the past. Yeah, I think Colgate's either going to win outright or get blown out. I don't think there's going to be an in-between. Georgetown. I don't think Georgetown over Colorado would really be an upset, especially when you look at what the line in that game would be. Purdue, North Texas. Yeah, I like talking about that matchup. I'll talk about it again. North Texas is Virginia, only with worse players, and they're not as good. But they play the same exact style. And I just don't see that style giving Purdue a lot of trouble, although North Texas did handle a good big man last night in Charles Bassey of Western Kentucky. They handled him pretty well. But Purdue has a little bit more depth on the front court and better players, so you won't really be able to afford to double-team Travion Williams like they were Charles Bassey last night. Purdue will make you pay for it. Texas looks dangerous. Yeah, like I said, I think Texas has a harder first-round matchup than when they would have a second-round matchup. Abilene Christian is no joke. They are no joke. And if they can get by them, then I think they'll beat the Michigan State UCLA winner and probably have a matchup with Alabama, which will be a very good game. I want to see that game, Texas and Alabama. Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a COVID debate stream, but it's been a year. Like, if you're still afraid of COVID at this point, that's on you. Like, the vaccines are proving to be successful. we know that the virus isn't as deadly as it's been made out to be when we first learned about it last year. So let's play ball, guys. The Texas Rangers are doing it right. Full capacity at their baseball games. It's time to move on. It's time to get fans back. But it's not going to happen this year. But still, I just don't think we should overreact to one asymptomatic positive test if a team happens to do so, right? Like, for example, if one player tests positive for USC, I think that one player should be isolated and the rest of the USC team should just move on, right? But that's not going to happen, sadly. Do I like Gonzaga to win it all? I do. Well, I was hesitant to answer that question before today because I was like, wait till the brackets come out, but I think Gonzaga got a favorable draw. Yeah, Baylor didn't close the season the strongest. I think that hiatus really kind of took the momentum out from under them. And like I said, they have if they play North Carolina, that is a tough second-round matchup for them in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Hartford will not beat Baylor. They won't come close. I think it's going to be a 40-point blowout. How do I think Alabama will play in the tournament? Well, they have an interesting 15-seed matchup, although I think Iona just didn't play enough games this year. Alabama's going to be a whole different type of opponent for them. But I think Alabama will easily beat Connecticut or Maryland, and then Texas will probably be their opponent in the Sweet 16, and that's a coin flip. Ultimately, though, I don't see them making the Final Four. I think they can make the Elite Eight, but I don't think they'll be able to beat a Michigan. I don't know. I wouldn't sell Colgate short, but I think they had better teams last year and the year before. UConn. They'll beat. I think they can beat Maryland, but not much else. Yeah, I don't think Michigan State should have got in. I think a little too much respect there. Although, in that case, who would you put in over them? Colorado State? Michigan State had better wins. Colorado State had a better record, but Michigan State had better wins. So it is what it is. Michigan State can thank the Ivy League. Illinois, I just think West Virginia is going to take that region just off first glance. How far could Oklahoma State make it? Ultimately, I think coaching will be their limiting factor. But if they get by Liberty, I do see them making it to play Illinois, which I do think they can win. The thing is that Houston's such a weak 2 seed that I think Oklahoma State has the best shot of a 4 seed to make it to the Final Four. But ultimately, I think coaching will catch up to them at some point. I don't think they'll be able to get by Illinois. But if they do get by Illinois, they have that West Virginia matchup, and they showed that they could beat them this year. So, yeah, they have a high upside but a low downside, too. They could lose to Liberty. They could make it to the Final Four. West Virginia is my pick to make it to the Final Four out of that region off first glance. Like I said, this is all first glance stuff. I still need to run my model and everything. Thoughts on Tennessee's draw? They got a favorable first-round opponent. Like, they could have got a Winthrop or UC Santa Barbara, and they didn't, so they can count their blessings there. But I think Oklahoma State will be a tough out for them in the second round. Ultimately, though, even if they can make it that far, I don't see them beating in Illinois. So, Sweet 16 is their ceiling. You were right about that, Randy. Illinois is very dependent on how the refs call games. I would not doubt that at all. Yeah, Houston is a weak 2 seed, but I think Clemson could give them trouble, but neither of those teams would scare me as Houston. So ultimately, though, West Virginia is a team that can give them trouble. And even if it happens, like Syracuse, I wouldn't count them out because, like I said, that 2-3 zone has gotten them far in the tournaments in the past, even when their seed was pretty low. And even a San Diego State could give a team like Houston trouble. So Houston's problem is any of San Diego State, Syracuse, or West Virginia will give them a ton of trouble. Yeah, I'm going to post my model matrices probably sometime tomorrow morning. I have videos coming doing further breakdowns. This is just a first reaction. All right, yeah, so I should probably get started on that. So I'm going to end the stream and get started on working on some things. Virginia Tech, Florida, I like Virginia Tech. But early thoughts on my Final Four, I've already said Gonzaga, Ohio State, West Virginia, and Michigan. Rutgers, I think ultimately, I think they played above their heads. I don't think they're as good as they played at the beginning of the year. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I have stuff to work on for the new videos coming tomorrow, so thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Let's hope this is a good tournament without any cancellations and any of that, and that every game gets played without any COVID garbage. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Sports Betting Truth, we got a lot of March Madness videos coming out starting tomorrow, so check it out. I'll run my model, do a bunch of Monte Carlo simulations and all of that. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good one.